Hello everyone, thanks for showing up for another video segment at alexanderbasica.com. I have Andrew Jenkins back for another great review of apps in the iOS universe. Andrew was kind enough to provide us with a review of a key app called OmniFocus on the iPhone in our last segment. What we have Andrew talking about today is an app that he really likes in the iPad universe. And as everyone knows, iPad has been making serious inroads not only in the enterprise space but with users. As we know, there was a lot of negative sentiment to the device just being a larger iPhone, etc., etc. But what's really happened is people have found the utility and productivity in this new device and segment. And what's happening is compelling applications are now being delivered at a slower pace, but they're coming out en masse, and a lot of people are talking about them. So Andrew's going to give us one of his top picks on the iPad and why, and maybe possible room for improvement. Andrew, fire away.
Sure. Thanks, by the way. So earlier this summer, I coincidentally on Twitter saw a post from Robert Scoble of Scobalizer fame, Scobalizer.com, mentioning that later that night he was going to be doing an interview with an organization called FlipBoard and their CEO. And they were basically launching, some 30 minutes later after I had seen that tweet. So I watched the interview. The download of the app was made available. The application is called FlipBoard, and I read in the coming days or the days following that they were overwhelmed with downloads. They were doing everything they could for the remainder of that week and days following to maintain the performance of the server and enable people to download the iPad app. Now it's only for iPad, but in a recent interview, they talked about other devices that they'll eventually support. But the thing for me is it's a free application. It connects to my Facebook feed and my Twitter feed, and brings all of that content from those streams in and renders it along with their own predefined feeds in a real-time electronic magazine format. And to me, it's indicative of where content consumption is going.
And why do you think that's different than, say, RSS feed? Is it just the presentment? What engages you or makes you use it more often than, say, other RSS type apps that aggregate content in a certain way, like a mail inbox? So what makes it different?
Well, typically in an RSS feed or in a Twitter stream, you're only getting links or a very small snippet of what it is they're trying to convey. Where Flipboard gives you, I compare it to an abstract from if you are doing periodical research in a library or something, you'll get the first 250 words, and then you can decide whether that's what you're looking for or not.
Yeah.
But you can get a good portion of the post. It also draws in the photographs, it draws in the videos, so there really is very little of the posting hidden from you. However, should you choose to read it on the web, the mechanism exists within it, so you just click read the balance on the web.
Do you think that the strategy behind Flipboard was not only did they obviously take advantage of the iPad real estate, but do you really think that it really taps into what we're all starting to realize, that I mean, you and I have discussed this on many occasions in some of our coffee chats, but that really we have visual minds. And the way we absorb information is more of a visual format. That's why things like mind map strategies are beneficial to developing concepts more quickly. Fishbone diagrams is very popular because I've used the app. I had to get on the invite list. I instantly latched onto it. And what I found is that it was kind of a very random aggregation of content, but I was able to absorb it more effectively compared to an app like Mobile RSS, which just looks like a very glorified inbox with 1,000 newsletters in there, and I just felt very cluttered and overwhelmed. Like, do you feel that's
I don't
why?
think when you look at when I show people Flipboard who either don't have an iPad or they do and they haven't seen it, or I send them the video that shows how it's working. They're quite taken by it, and as well, I don't think when you see it that it looks anything remotely like an inbox.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, every page is rendered uniquely depending on how much content is in a tweet, whether it's a full blog post with pictures or video or whatever. But the other thing is they were really starting to work on this concept last summer. Of 09, before the iPad. iPad was just a rumor. So they
Okay.
were actually thinking about the user experience regardless of device. They felt
Interesting.
that there was probably a need or that for an improved way of consuming content.
Now, did you? I mean, you're very proactive, and you talk to a lot of people with your consulting work, etc. But did you get a sense from Scobalizer or any of the interviews, like, is there an algorithm associated with Flipboard, like how it actually aggregates and lists certain content? Like, because Facebook indicated that you're more likely to see content from people in your wall feed that you're engaging with more, and there's some algorithm associated. How do they actually allocate the information? Because it doesn't seem to have a consistent plan. Is there some model behind it, and how it displays, say, you and I are connected on Facebook in our wall feed, are we more likely to see yours in a higher profile chunk of that real estate, or is there anything behind that you're aware of?
That I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
I know that they're connecting via the Facebook Connect API
Okay.
and the Twitter API. Again, it's just yet another application that is going to those feeds and pulling the content in so that trying to improve upon the experience.
Yeah.
Now there's a new, although it's browser-based, RockMelt, which is the new browser.
Yeah.
Again, aggregating feeds from multiple sources into a centralized place. But it's browser-based, browser-specific. So whether or not we'll end up with a RockMelt browser for iPad remains to be seen. But in the interim, we've got Flipboard, which is making for a very, very rich experience, and I think speaks to the reason why the iPad, one of the reasons why the iPad's been so successful for grabbing a coffee in a coffee shop or the Sunday morning, read the newspaper, and then flip over to, pardon the pun, flip over to Flipboard and read that for a while.
Okay.
And again, it's not, a lot of people think I'm checking in on Twitter. When you're on Flipboard, it's less checking in and more just experiencing it and reading it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and just the last question on this: Flipboard free, invite only. How's it? It's free, and is it still invite only, or can you get it?
No. I mean, I downloaded it from their site the night it was launched, and getting back to Scoble for a moment, one of the reasons it stood out for me was the tweet from Scoble was, here is what I feel. I'm quoting him. Here's what I feel to be one of the best apps of 2010. Now, knowing the number of apps that he sees or get thrust at him, and not only apps but devices and services and all these other things, for him to have made that comment, I thought, okay, well, I got to pay attention to this, and I wasn't disappointed.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andrew, and thank you, everyone, for listening. We look forward to having Andrew do some future reviews of compelling new applications on iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch. Thanks again, Andrew.
My pleasure.